welcome to another episode of a Wicked Parley. Tonight we're going to be discussing hope. Hope, that thing that we always want, the thing that we cherish, the thing that we use to pull us out of the depths of despair. You know, honestly, there are many things that hope brings to people's lives that I think are great and good things. And so some people may see this episode and go, well, I already know exactly how hope works. I need all the hope I can get, so I'm going to pay attention. Or maybe you're a person who thinks, I know everything there is to know about hope. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're both right. It's
a good thing I didn't start counting the counter, because I lost track for one.
I know, right? Yeah. I'm going to say hope a lot, so,
Yeah. So just for something fun for myself, those at Wicked Parley, and those in the audience, after I finish saying this, we're going to count the number of times that the word hope is being said. No, that one doesn't count.
And to be fair, I'm just mess her up entirely. Hope. Okay, cool. All right, glad we started with that. All right.
I'm pretty sure, like, the actual number of times I heard the actual word was like 5, because it was like hup, 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 hup.
That's also fair. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay. So anyways, before discussing hope in too much detail, we're going to go over a couple of key terms that are going to be both relating to hope and maybe even be hope itself. And so that way we kind of focus the discussion a little bit, and that way we kind of have an idea of where we're coming from. So, Rose, why don't you throw up the first of the definitions we got?
Yeah. We first have inspiration. So, something that makes someone want to do something, or that gives someone an idea about what to do or create. A force or influence that inspires someone.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about inspiration that matters is what the person that is being inspired takes away. So on this particular definition, let's focus on the very last bit, at least for the talking points that I will be addressing.
Okay, right. A force or influence that inspires someone. Got it.
Yeah. All right, and then let's throw up the next one.
Yep. Hope. There's one for me. So, for our definition, we're going to go with to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to this particular thing, I just think the entire thing is really important to understand. Each part. You know, the combination of a desire, the ability to anticipate that desire, to try to believe that something is going to happen or make something to be more true than it may appear, are all elements of hope that I will definitely be looking at in any of the talking points that we'll be discussing tonight.
Mm-hmm. The next one we've got going for us is intention.
Intention.
For our particular one, we're going with the second definition, which is a determination to act in a certain way, otherwise known as your resolve.
Yes, the resolve is the most important element of intention, due to the fact that if you want to do something with a certain precision, you obviously are building intention, but in order to have that intention, it is the wherewithal and the resolve to follow through with whatever you're trying to accomplish. So, Okay, next one.
The last one for right now is, let me scroll, faith.
Faith. Yes. Faith is a very important one. And the reason why it's very important is because faith is usually co-opted by various religious, practices.
Undertones?
Yes. Undertones is probably a good way to put it. And I don't think necessarily you need to have a religious perspective in order to have faith going for you. And so I think when we talk about this, we're definitely going to be looking at number 3's definition. And the most important part is the last bit, the strong conviction. Yeah.
So in our episode tonight, we're going with faith is something that is believed, especially with strong conviction.
Mm-hmm. All right. So where exactly should we begin in this particular discussion?
Well, we actually have 2 more definitions that are not going to rely on a dictionary, to be honest. One of which is the word emotional.
Yes.
So before we get into the main talking points about hope, there's another time. What do you consider to be your definition of emotional?
I think emotional is whenever you take a look at something and you don't look at it from a perspective of a logic. If you don't have a reason, this is this for this, and that explains the thing, then you are from an emotional perspective. And I think that it's often associated with internal feelings, and can be disseminated based upon intention, which is kind of something we talked about a little earlier. So.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of a scenario, a situation where you have an intense feeling. Doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, because those are connotations that people tack onto those emotions themselves. But as long as the emotion is intense and it's driven by the scenario, the situation, even by other people, that's what I consider to be emotional. It's a strong, intense feeling. Nothing like kind of small and able to be kind of bypassed relatively easily.
Okay.
Could not say that English.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. It sounded good.
Yeah. The other one that might be important to talk about is your version of the word darkest moment, or if that's a little hard to picture, hopelessness.
So like a point of pure despair, perhaps, would be something that I think of, something that someone who's anguished. A sense of all things are lost would be how I would probably define that.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the simplest way to go about it is that you have no hope. You have no positive feelings towards the future of whatever the heck's going on. You've lost all faith that whatever is going to happen is going to be good. You've kind of just wholly accepted that something negative, completely bad is going to happen, and you've accepted the fact that there's pretty much nothing you can do about it.
I do have a question about your definition.
What's
That's
up?
okay.
Yeah, sure.
Not to go too far into it, but would you say that a person who's in that particular state lacks the ability to even perceive what hope might even appear like?
Sometimes that might actually be the case, because you have hope because you can. I'm going to go into it for a later thing anyway.
Okay.
But as a quick thing, you can kind of create your own hope or borrow it from somebody else. But if there's nothing around you that inspires that type of hopefulness, that kind of positive energy in your life, the lack of it is kind of what makes this hopelessness, especially if nothing's there to stop you from going further down into, if I'm going into your definition, the intense despair. Because for me, hope is the feeling that something positive will hopefully arise or come out of this situation. Hopelessness is essentially, there's no even thought process that you're going to get out of this unscathed, that whoever's going through this situation is going to come out like even relatively okay. You've kind of just lost all faith that anything's going to go right.
I see.
God, that went dark.
No, it's okay. Like,
I mean, that's the point of that.
We're coming out of the darkness, so it'll be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Much like the thumbnail.
Like the thumbnail. Yes, indeed. All right.
But that was what I wanted to get through. Wow, we spent a lot of time on that.
Yeah, we spent a little bit of time, but you know what? It's good. That way we understand our conversation will be now grounded in those particular definitions.
Yeah.
So at least those at home will be able to see where we're coming from when we discuss these various talking points. And because I know how much the viewers like to watch, a game, we have some pre-recorded content of some Destiny 2. I believe it's a Vault of Glass run. So for you guys to be able to enjoy at home. So,
Yep.
All
So
right.
there we go.
Cool stuff.
Have at it, people.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, let's
on to
jump.
the
Yeah, let's jump right into it, huh?
So I know we already pulled up a formal definition of the word hope. I've already lost track. But what do you think of when you hear the word hope? Like, what's your self-definition of the word?
I think it's a feeling. I think more than anything else for me. When I think of hope, I think of the most positive thing, and it's something that nudges me towards a positive direction when I'm in a particularly negative place.
Mm. Okay, okay.
What about you?
For me, it's also a feeling. It's based on tangible and intangible things, such as like the people around you, the scenario around you, or the feelings that somebody can inspire in you. It's supposed to be more positive, more helpful, drawing people out in the darkest times and whatnot.
Hmm.
It's the feeling and want and anticipation of wanting things to be better, whether it's as a scenario or for a person, for yourself, or even just a wish.
Okay. There's a lot there. There's a lot in your definition.
I
I
know.
appreciate. No, I appreciate it. Honestly,
I
it's
know.
a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Like, there's a lot of things I can think of when it comes to hope. Like, you can ask me for examples later because we'll probably need to discuss them of like what I mean, because hope is so subjective. Speaking of which,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, spoiler alert in case you guys didn't know. Yeah, hope is kind of what you make it. So it is incredibly subjective. So I think that's kind of one of the things that's important to take away from this whole conversation as well. So while our particular perspective on hope might be one thing, and you may have a difference of opinion, and if you do, let us know in the comment section, or send us an email. We'd love to have a discussion with you about that. So yeah. Honestly, when you were talking about hope for Rose, I definitely think that I agree with the idea between there being a combination of both intangible and tangible. I definitely like that in your definition. I think that's something that I very much agree with. And I'd be curious to know of a couple examples that you might have relating to those.
let me think. Something that's kind of inspired by both being tangible and intangible is, say, a family member or a friend of yours has gotten into an accident. You have no idea. They're in the emergency room. You've got no idea what's happening. The doctors won't let you see through for whatever reason. And all you can do is hope that they're okay. That comes from the tangible side of things because it's someone physically being hurt. But it's also from the intangible side of things because it's your emotions. You can't exactly poke around with those unless you're literally poking in somebody's brain.
I mean, I definitely can relate to that particular thing. I've been in that situation. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
being the one outside of the emergency room and waiting.
Yes. Yeah. When my grandmother got ill, I had that particular experience, and I can tell you it was not fun. And hope definitely was something that helped get the family through that particular trying time.
Yeah. And then something that could be, let's see. At the moment, I can't think of anything that's purely physical because it's like the emotions involved with that is the intangibility. But something that I could potentially see as wholly intangible is, say when a person dies, if they believe in the afterlife and whatnot,
you hope they go to a better place.
You hope you go to a better place, and that's not something that us on the physical plane can touch.
Yeah, or even know.
Yeah, or even know, because it happens after death. So depending on which religion you believe in, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, whether that's heaven, hell, purgatory, ghost, that's I can't touch that. That's intangible to me.
And I think that's it makes sense, and I agree with that particular idea. And yeah, I mean, honestly, well done on your definition of hope. It definitely is well-rounded, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's go into the next particular talking point.
Let's see. So, what do you believe hope does for a person?
I think hope can be utilized for a lot of different things. I don't think that it necessarily is pinned down to one thing. I think hope can inspire people to do great things. I think hope can be used to overcome particularly strong adversities. And examples of both could be a person who's given hope, maybe they're in a bad spot. Maybe they want to make a better life for themselves, and so they strive for something greater. Or a person maybe is in an academic setting, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and wants to do well in a class, and so maybe they might hope for something like that. But I also think hope can do other things as well. I think it can shape the way in which people perceive themselves in their communities. Oh yeah, I think so. I think that like if a person is going down the street and you wish goodwill upon someone, and you have the hope that that person uses that type of energy to do something positive in the community, then I think hope can be used in that particular way. I think that whenever you see any person who takes up a leadership role, one of the key things that is difference between a person I think who is successful in a leadership role and a person who is not has to do with the amount of people who support them, and I think the people who support them are utilizing hope to do that. And so, like, to me, I think hope can be used for just a super large number of things. And I think the most important thing about it is that almost in every instance I can imagine, that hope is used to overcome or persevere through a particularly trying moment in an individual's life, whether it be the beginning, middle, or end. But do you have any questions to me about that, my particular thing, or maybe have something about your own opinion of it?
Yeah, it's like one of the things is like, I'm wondering if hope has to be for a trying time, because it's like, I know for me personally, I can hope for something small that won't actually affect my life in a too significant manner.
Like what would be an example?
Video games.
Video games? Okay.
Specifically gotcha games.
Oh, okay, so you're like, I hope I really get this character and like...
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, it's not gonna... Like, I'm not gonna die if I don't have the character. It would make my life easier, sure, but it's a game.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hi, host.
Hi, welcome, host. Yeah, okay.
So it says, like, does hope have to be for, like, necessarily trying time? I can understand why people attach it to trying times, because it's the one where something's in danger, something's going wrong, you want to hope for a better ending. But does it have to be for always big things?
I see where you're going with this, and I kind of agree with you that like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a big thing. I think that it's just easily able to be seen.
Identified with it?
Exactly. You can easily identify that, oh, this is what this is by using an extreme example. But I mean, and as an example of my own that I think we kind of were discussing when the episode was getting written, was the idea of going into a grocery store and hoping that they have the item you want. Like for me...
Yes.
For me personally, like, you know, after we did the whole, like, no sugar challenge last month, I started actually finding that I really liked the Gatorade that had 0 sugar.
Yeah.
And I also really liked this, like, sweet tea that has no sugar in it at all. And I'm like, and I might add that it has no aspartame and nothing like that. It's actually, like, crazy good for you. I was like, oh my God. Anyways, the point is that, like, I have wanted to go, I've gone into the same store twice now, looking for both of those items. 0 of them are available. And but I have hope that I will find it again.
I've already lost track, I swear.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm sure. You know, our tally at this point is probably in the hundreds. It's got to be close.
Much.
It's got to be close.
Minimum 30, I know that.
Yeah, like minimum 30. Got it.
Minimum. Oh. I'm thinking maybe 40, 50 at this point. Did you just say it again?
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, it's like... Oh. I mean, that's one way to go about it. That's one way to go about it, host.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Be pessimistic and then be pleasantly surprised when something works out. I mean, I guess if you're going to put it in that perspective, the person's kind of being hopeful that their expectations are kind of ruined. In a good way.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, to me, like, I've always found it irritating whenever people have described the analogy of the half glass, the half full
half
glass,
empty,
half empty. Yeah, like that whole notion. And that's just because, like, to me, it's like, it's the same thing. Like,
it is the same thing. It
like,
just depends on your outlook.
Yeah, and
quite literally.
And to me, I think the outlook is not as important, if that makes any sense. So, I mean,
I'd have to rethink that entire statement.
Yeah, but it's okay. Let's go on to the next talking point.
Yeah. So this is one our audience can obviously have a go at. So, what inspires hopefulness in you? Whoever's in the audience, whoever's a future Ninja Watcher, feel free to mention what inspires hopefulness in you, because I'd honestly love to have more things that would make me feel even more positive emotions than I feel already, because I'm on a natural like sugar high constantly.
It's all that Sunny D.
Shush.
Oh my goodness. You know, honestly, what inspires hopefulness in me, I think, is good acts. You know, when someone does something nice for another person and I see it, it could be something super small. I think it inspires hopefulness in me, because one of the things that I come across so very often, and because of the show and all the research that I do and just my interactions in the profession I'm going into, I can see how often people treat other people with maybe not the greatest level of respect. You know, but like when I see like I'm driving in the car, right? Yeah. And I'm in Laura, and I'm just driving down the street, and I see a person let a person in traffic. I'm like, oh, that's a good feeling. Like, I'm glad that person's in there. You did a good thing. I'm happy about that. And it inspires hope in me that like there are going to be more good drivers out there that are not going to be, you know, bad, we'll say. And so I think that you know, just seeing good acts is genuinely something that inspires hope in me. But I also think that hearing stories also does that for me as well, because if I can glean positivity from other aspects of life, and then it makes me hopeful that more things are positive than negative, and so it counteracts some of my lived experience. What about you?
One quick one when I'm looking at hosting karma, do good and get good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's one way to look at it. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, although I definitely think that you should do good things, and if you do good things, then when good things happen to you, you shouldn't be upset about it. But I also don't think you should expect good things to happen to you for doing good things. I think you should do good things because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Anyway, I can read that later. For me, hopefulness, what inspires hopefulness in me? Besides other people being hopeful, of course. It's a kind of a contagious energy if you've got the right mindset. So it's like other people being hopeful, of course, people doing good deeds. Actually, a classmate of mine made me really glad and hopeful, and made me kind of hope that I could continue doing what I was doing. They told me they're new to the graduate program. They didn't know what to expect. And they told me as we're walking back from class, as we're going home, that he was really happy that I'm the energetic, friendly person that I am, because it makes him feel welcome. It makes him feel like he has it makes him feel like he doesn't not belong. Yeah. It makes him feel like he belongs and that he has a place here.
Well, that's really
and
good.
I was really happy I could do that. And so I guess another thing that inspires hopefulness in me is because I want to kind of inspire that in other people. So when that actually happens, that makes me pretty darn glad and makes me want to continue what I'm doing.
I mean, you're definitely a person that wants to make the world a better place, and more of that is never a bad thing. So
it's like, I don't know if that answers the exact question of what inspires hopefulness in me, but like part of it is when other people are having a good day, whether that's because of me or other people.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the things that I kind of am curious about, just maybe you can glean from the interaction is that do you think that when you were talking to him that he was maybe not as hopeful? He was like, you know, there's a lot of insecurities, and perhaps he was in a point of, I wouldn't say just necessarily despair, but maybe like the lighter version of that through anxiety, and then perhaps based on your demeanor, it was able to instill hope in him and pull him out of that negative space?
For the classmate that I was particularly speaking to, he is pretty self-confident in his knowledge and his intelligence and his place. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking it was more of the social aspect, because, you know, demonetization viruses, the lockdown is slowly coming down in this area. It might not keep that way if somebody has their way. I'm not getting into that. Wrong episode for that.
Okay.
But I do have another classmate of mine that does feel a little more self-conscious about their place, and I just want to be friendly. I want to instill hope in them because that makes me feel good, not only for myself, which seems selfish, but it's also because I want people to be happy here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people to come to college and be extremely unhappy because, like, you're here for a reason, and I don't want that reason to go away.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, if someone's unhappy, it might discourage them through a particularly trying time. But if someone's in the presence of someone who is upbeat and positive and can instill hope in others, then when a trying time appears, they can use that energy to focus and get through it rather than just running away and, you know, quitting. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think overall, it's a good thing. So.
Yeah. All right. Host, do good things because it's the right thing to do. I agree. Never do something and expect some cosmic luck as a reward. Yeah, that's just...
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the way I go by. I always think of the wish dragon analogy. And that's why I live my life as the wish dragon rather than the lucky guy that's that's expecting the universe to give him something that he's owed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys want to know what the wish dragon is, I'll tell you guys in another episode.
Next thing?
Yeah, let's go into the next one.
Yeah, but thank you for participating, host, and I hope you continue. Oh my god, I just said that like twice.
Hope.
I'm pretty sure that's like another 10 right there.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, like, yeah.
I've completely lost track. I'm just gonna have to rewatch the entire thing.
Here's the question, though: does hopelessness and hopefulness count as hope?
They can't.
In that case, then there's 3 more added on.
I know.
So the
anyway.
hope tally for.
Shut up.
Are you telling me to shut up? Okay. All right.
All right.
You hear this, people?
Oh.
This is the type of abuse that I have to deal with. This is
crazy.
God. Man. It's like I do all this research and all this sort of stuff, and I just getting told to shut up. Apparently, live on stream. Look at that.
Anyway, what kinds of things lead to hope?
What kinds of things lead to hope? Well, I think there's the need to understand, like, what exactly is inspiring in the first place. Mm-hmm. So if a person is disconnected from something that they're trying to achieve or strive towards, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be hope that will put them on right on the back course, I think. I think more often than not, you probably are going to need some sort of facilitation in order to get back, and I think hope is the main metric by which that happens. So I think unless you experience something that you need to be hopeful in, you likely won't experience it. And so it's almost like, I wouldn't say you need to have something bad happen to you in order to have hope. And then, of course, have people support you and whatnot, and get that kind of energy to go with. But I think you need to have something to hope for in order for hope to enter, if that makes any sense.
Yes, you kind of need it's pretty much, if I wanted to reword it, it's you kind of want or need something in order to be able to hope for that to begin with.
Yes.
If you don't need it and you don't want it, you don't hope for it in general, for the most part. There could be some exceptions, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. If somebody can, I'd love to hear it.
And by the way, host, I knew a person named Hope who was not hopeful at all. And so, like, I'm not sure that's the way to go when it comes to...
I'm pretty sure they're going about, like, the pun. They're absolutely going for pun.
Oh, they totally are. I mean, like, the idea that someone's named Hope, and then that you want them to have hope, hope. All right, I'm just messing with the counter at this point. All right.
Okay.
Anyways.
If my camera was on, everybody would have just seen me, like, actually, like, slowly going through what you just said, trying to count. Anyway.
All right, so let's what kind of things do you think lead into hope? Do you think that there's more to it than just having, like, a situation that would require it? Is there an additional thing that maybe slipped underneath the radar, per se?
I think for the the most part, it is just a scenario where you want or need something. Like you mentioned before, it doesn't have to be like something tragic or trying. Like for somebody searching for a job. A lot of people
Okay,
right now.
that could be strenuous though. Like if a person desperately needs a job to pay rent, then
Yeah, they can absolutely be strenuous, but
yeah.
like before freaking demonetization virus hit,
Mhm.
it was just a competition. Like it wasn't. I mean, it was drastic, but not as drastic as it is now.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that.
Okay, but like for some people, it's just like they can hope for the job, but if they've got other things light up, they're not as hopeful or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see. People can hope for the lottery.
That's just a stupid tax. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put it this way. All right. You're the math person, okay?
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure that if I asked you to tell me the calculation of what's the likelihood of actually winning the lottery, all right,
It'd be pretty darn low.
I'm gonna guess it's like it's like a bit like a several large numbers. I'm guessing at least 7 or more digits along. You know what? I'm gonna say probably more like 8 digits along at least to 1. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't be too shocked. I'd have to like take my time and figure out exactly how those lotteries work.
mm-hmm.
I don't pay attention to them myself.
Yeah. Well,
But like that's something. And there's like other things that you can hope for, whether they're big or small. So it's just for me, it's just the want or need for something that leads to this type of scenario.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have a Walmart analogy by host.
Walmart analogy. You don't want anything from Walmart, but everything's on sale. There is no hope. You're better off going to Target. Okay. All right. I mean, sure.
Okay.
And you know what? Hope is in there, so that's 2.
You just said another one.
That's why I said 2. So what's the next talking point? I kind of feel like we're kind of like going around this in a little bit of a circle, and I'd like to kind of address a couple things.
So this is actually something I covered a tiny bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an individual that creates hope, or do they gain it from someone else?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Do you need a little bit of time to think?
I think I got it. I think I got where I'm going with this. I think that it's both. I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think an individual is required to fulfill hope. But...
Wait, fulfill hope?
Yeah, I'm going to explain this in a second.
Okay.
So, this is kind of tied to the whole, the idea surrounding faith, and why faith and hope are kind of intertwined in this particular way.
Yeah.
I think that there's a level of faith that's required to follow through, and I also think that it also kind of intertwines with intention too, when it comes to resolve. So, if you're going through a particularly trying moment, right, that moment is something that you personally experience, and so that's the reason why I say individual in this particular example, but I also say both because the reason why you feel hope is because of other people likely that have inspired and given that to you. So while you might specifically be dealing with something trying, it is the community, or at least your circle of people, that are giving you the energy to be pushed towards your goal and giving you the hope to persevere the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it's both. And I think that it varies from situation to situation. Because I think that, like, in the analogy of you going to, say, a store and wanting let's say I want to go get my non-sugary beverage, it's not the community necessarily, unless you like want to super analyze it. And you're like, it's just me who's feeling hope. Now the community is facilitating my desire because it's only through the community's ability to essentially stock it. The truck driver to drive the product there, the store to order the product, the person. I could go through that list. But, but like, if we're talking about the element of hope itself, in that example, it's just me. But in other examples, like for instance, when my grandmother went to the emergency room, right? There's hope that was shared by multiple people, wishing well. So
yeah.
What's your viewpoint on this particular question?
I can definitely agree with you on. For me, it's also both. I can definitely agree with you on gleaning hope from other people around you. because they build up your expectations. They want to build you up as much as you want to build them up at times, if it's a decent circle.
Mm-hmm.
As for the whole creating it yourself, that one's definitely situational, because some people can't create that hope from themselves, and that's where the community brings in. But for the instances where they do create it, they kind of have to have the willpower and mental capabilities in order to like build themselves up in a way to be hopeful, I think.
Yeah, what's the kind of situation that you could envision that would be like someone building it up on them by themselves? Like what's the circumstance, like what's an analogy that we could hear?
An athlete, I think.
Okay, I'm going to point out that a athlete has a coach.
Yeah, I know,
team
but
members,
like they
doctors.
do have that, but they have to have the hope that they can be the athlete to begin with. They have to have hope in themselves that they can actually do it. Like, yeah, like that has to start from within the individual.
Do you think that the parents or influential family members are responsible for kind of like waving that hope in the first place? Because someone has to tell them that they could be this, right? Don't you think?
Not all the time, because some people can just watch other people and like be inspired, and then they start building that hope from themselves. But like, it's kind of a funky scenario, because it's like so much of your person is intertwined with your community that it's kind of hard to tell like which one's you and which one's
it's difficult to disseminate between the what's what. Yeah.
So it's just like, but you still have to have the hope that you can do it to begin with. If you don't have any hope, then you're not going to even try to become the athlete. And no matter how much other people are going to try and convince you, if you don't have the hope yourself, or even a spark of it, you're not going to do it.
Okay, I like that idea. The idea that there's a spark in some people, and that spark can be the hope that someone has internally.
Like, you kind of have to have that tiny spark. It's just, you can either ignite it yourself through your own research, your own ideals that have been created by other people, because honestly, your entire mental well-being, your thought process and all that, it's going to be inspired by your community, your culture, the people around you. Like, that's kind of a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that.
It's like,
I mean, like,
it's more of, I consider gaining it from somebody else as in like they're directly like right there and influencing you type of thing. Like when a coach, gives you tips, when a family member is cheering you on, supporting you, or you've got coworkers that are like telling you you're doing a good job, keep it up type of scenario.
Yeah.
Like those are like directly that you would glean hope from somebody, for my scenario.
So do you think that all people are just kind of born with the spark of hope in them, and then it's whether or not the situation and the person chooses to ignite that particular level of hope? Is that how you think hope works across the board?
I believe so, because you can have your spark and you can have it ignite through yourself or through other people, but you can also have it to be where yourself, whether through low self-esteem, self-confidence issues, self-deprecation, things like that, or by the community, such as they're telling you can't do this, other things like that. It's both yourself and your community that can either ignite that hope or sniff it out entirely. Like, you have people...
Do you really think they could be crushed, though, entirely, where a person is absolutely 100% hopeless?
I don't know about 100%, but I think it can be a pretty darn high number, because you always hear those stories about people that they wish they had this dream when they were younger, but they never actually got to do it.
Yeah.
And then by the time they realize they probably could have, something, whether that be physically, mentally, emotionally, stops them from achieving that, and it like they want to ignite that spark, but it's already gone. They'd have to try really hard to reignite it. Sorry.
It's okay. I agree with what you're saying. What I think of is that there was a seminar that I went to a while ago that discussed suicide. And in suicide, one of the things that seems to happen with a lot of people is that causes them to get to the point where they go from feeling suicidal to actually engaging in suicidal behavior, is this idea of having an absence of hope. That they feel hopeless, they feel like things are never going to improve, that things are constantly bad. And when it comes to that particular type of response, a lot of people, when they try to commit suicide, they reach a certain point of no return. And when that person reaches that certain point of no return, it's often said that those people had doubts and completely changed their mind. The guy who was at the seminar was one such person. He had wanted to commit suicide. He was feeling he was in a really bad place, and he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Holy man.
And he survived. And he said that the most eye-opening thing was the moment that his hands left the bars, and he was complete. It was in the beginning stage of free fall. Yeah. And at that exact moment, he had regrets. He wished he had never done it, and he wished that he could have taken it right back in that exact instance. So I think that like your idea about hope, being a very low number but not completely gone, is exactly right, based upon that particular experience and the experiences of others who have shared that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see, because it's like that type of scenario. That's a very, very obviously life-changing scenario.
Yeah, I mean it's
like if your hope is almost essentially crushed, it's going to take something big to get it back.
Yeah.
If it's like 99.9% gone, it's going to take something monumentally huge to get it back.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Monumentally huge. I mean, I know what hopelessness looks like. I felt it. I won't go into any details about it, but I will say that it did take a monumental situation to course correct it. Mm-hmm. So it was not a small feat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, how about
we
go to a couple of things that are a bit more positive with the help of host here.
Okay.
Just like we've been talking about some heavy stuff. I thought that was going to be a light episode. Whew. All right.
Ain't nothing light about hope.
Oh, gosh. That's another one. Hope is a fluid. It molds to any container it's put in. Sounds like a cat.
If it sits, it fits.
Yeah. A container need not be a single body and need not be full of hope.
That's an interesting idea. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. I'd like to explore it further. Oh, we got a meme here.
Oh, of course.
We got one from Patrick. Is hope an instrument, Squidward? No, Patrick, hope is not an instrument. Patrick, Squidward, no, optimism is not an instrument either. Goodness.
Okay.
Gotta love those memes.
Thanks, host. I needed that.
All right. Away. All right. So, speaking of, big, monumental, life-changing situations, how important do you think hope is in a person's mental health and well-being?
Honestly, I think it's essential. I think that there are multiple aspects of the human psyche that are absolutely key to development. I think they're key to having a healthy life, and I think that many of the things are essential to have throughout your entire life. And I think hope is kind of simply one of them. I think that it is one of the easiest things to forget. It is one of the most important, but it's one of the most important sensations. And I think that if you are, it's like having like safety rails, right? Or like having like a seatbelt. I feel like hope is the seatbelt for our lives. It protects us when things are going bad.
I can see that.
Yeah, and I think that if you were in a situation where you didn't have hope, and things go bad, then they go even worse. I think it's super important. So.
Yeah, just tacking on to that. Hope is what makes you think you're going to have a positive ending, or at least better than what it could have been. It's the wish that for something better. It's the need and want for something better. It's the aspiration for something better. And if you're in the middle of a very bad situation and you have no hope, then what's your thought process for getting out of that without potentially ending worse? So it's kind of, you use hope as a tether to pull you toward that positivity.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that entirely. And
because it's like, if you don't have hope that something's going to go well, I can even see people immediately thinking, well, if nothing's going to go well, why keep going?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously that particular thought is thwarted by simply having that tether of good feelings and good intention. And so I think that's really, it's a good idea, and it's a good analogy, and I really like where you went with that.
Yeah. We've got a
Yeah.
couple of analogies actually.
All right. Let's use a couple of analogies, host.
Let's see.
What you got?
This one's, I believe, more of a reminder for people. Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Love that one. I've seen it so many times. Remember, you have options. They may be hard, but they will always be open. When a door closes, a window opens. Window closes. Who cares? It's a window, not a brick wall. Glass is temporary. Hope is forever. Ooh. I like that ending bit. And then the analogy house is a single story, by the way. Really long house.
Okay. Cool. I appreciate it. I also second the really liking that last bit. The glass is temporary, hope is forever. To me, I think hope is there's two things that people do really well. All right. I think the number one thing that people do that is amazing is love. And I think the second thing that humans do really well is hope. And I think that without those two things, humanity wouldn't be worth its time, to be honest. But because we do those two things, I think we are definitely better off, than I think anything else. So, all right. Okay. Let's jump into a little bit about
go for it.
The tangible intangibles.
Yeah, go for it. Oh, yeah, I remember going into a bit that earlier.
Yeah, you discussed it a little bit before. You were saying that you thought hope kind of had intangible and tangible, and we kind of dived into it a little bit with a couple of your analogies. But I'm curious to know, how would you consider it in an abstract way? We know about it in the direct way, like the way in which it would normally appear. But what's the abstract look?
For me, if I'm talking purely abstract, not anything that leads to it or anything that causes it, I'd go for intangible.
Okay.
Because
why?
it's a feeling, it's a want, it's a need. It's something that you can't always touch because it's a thought process inside of your head, inside of your mind. It's something that you can describe in words, but that's about it.
Yeah, I wonder, do you think that there are objects that can inspire hope? Could you, say, walk into a museum or into an art gallery and see a painting or a sculpture, and it presents something to you, some sort of imagery that instills or inspires hope in you?
I believe there can be, but for me, that's kind of. That's where the distinction between abstract and non-abstract comes in, because hope is still the feeling. It's just you have an object that inspires that, which is different than being hope itself.
Well, I'm wondering more about the inference of hope in that particular way, because obviously the art is the abstract element, and of course, as we've discussed, hope is the emotional context. It's the feeling associated with the direction of intention. And so what I'm kind of thinking is that in the sense of, first of all, in that scenario, do you think that, have you ever been moved by a painting or a picture or a piece of writing? Could have been a good book or a poem, or, a sculpture that maybe, gave you a sense of hope?
Yes. I have had physical objects that do inspire hope. That's kind of where, why I consider hope to be, just in general, not just purely abstract. That's why I consider hope to be a tangible and intangible thing, because yes, it's mostly a feeling, but that feeling can absolutely be inspired by something both tangible or intangible. If that makes sense.
It does. And also, a host, yes, I think it does inspire hope.
An object that inspires hope reminds me of, does this spark joy? Does this inspire? Yeah.
I think it does.
Absolutely. Okay. You can just hope to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the more interesting things that has to do with hope that I think is kind of interesting, that's kind of nice, is I've heard of, Make-A-Wish Foundation children who are, ill with cancer, right? Having a famous personality surprise them, right? And it's like that spark of joy is enough to give that kid hope that they're going to get through it. And sometimes it's enough to actually get them through it. And so I think that that's kind of one of the ways in which I kind of think that that's true.
Yeah. Sorry, I just took a look at his latest comment.
Yeah.
God. I Right.
Oh my god.
You're a little, yeah. I was moved by a sculpture. Thing fell on me and I was moved to the ground.
Yeah, well,
God.
I'm glad the
Dang.
sculpture, didn't fall on me, because it would have been moved to fall into pieces.
But yeah, it's just like, I love the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I love restoration projects.
Mm-hmm.
I love things that just kind of make the world better.
Yeah. I mean, one of the
Like
things...
cleaning the beach projects, reforestation,
Yeah.
helping rebuild after a natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Though every single one of those reminds me that humanity can be good,
Yeah, I mean, like, so many
and that
people...
there are good people in the world.
Yeah, so many people want to say humanity sucks, and they want to point to all these negative things that we do, but there's also a lot of positives, like you were kind of pointing out. One of the things that I most appreciate was the whole essentially getting water to people in irrigation
Yes.
to places in Africa, and I believe the one of the Bill Gates Foundation helped essentially create sanitation stations that could be used and created for very low amounts of money, that were able to help fight against all sorts of nasty diseases in Africa and provide clean water, and clean water not only for them to drink and bathe in and whatnot, but also for their crops. So that way it helped across the board improve the lives of these people. And I think that, like, acts like that, people who are like, I'm not going to build a rocket to the moon or wherever else, like Elon Musk, or
It's like those things are great, but when it happens like locally and just helping people in general, it's just such a nice feeling, because despite how much the news likes to remind us that there's negativity in the world, things like those, you always see there's always the group of YouTube videos of restoring faith in humanity's videos. I love watching those when I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, me too. You've showed me a few when I'm having a bad day, and I'm like,
Yes.
It
It just makes you
improves.
feel happy and like the world's not going to crap.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next talking point, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. I really like this discussion so far. It's been great.
Oh gosh, just reading it makes it sound negative. Is there? You'll figure it out.
I know.
Is there a point where someone can be too hopeful? That sounds so negative. God.
Yeah, it sounds negative, but I think no. I think that, it's so easy for us to go, oh, look at that hopeful guy. He's hoping for all these things and he's never going to get them. But really, those are people who are being pessimistic towards, another person, and they're not that person. In that analogy, of course. I'm sure there's certain circumstances where perhaps maybe there is an inverse, but I can't think of any that I honestly believe are true. I think more often than not, most people can't have too much hope. I think the difference is that, it's not about when it goes bad, it's not because the person has too much hope. It's because it's that they're not doing enough to facilitate the things that are important in their lives. So an example of someone who has a lot of hope, for instance, might be that they want to win the lottery. And so then maybe they make a point to go and get a scratcher every single day, right? And maybe they do it at the cost of, like, putting food on the table. It's not hope that creates that negative situation. It is the fact that they're not observing the ability to live within their own means. And so, like, to me, it's not hope in that situation that's bad. It's other things. I think hopefulness it's infectious. You know what I mean? It's a positive. And so I would say that there is no example that I can directly think of that is hope's responsibility that is too much. But what do you think about it? I know that's kind of like a little bit, that was not what you were expecting, I'm sure.
No, it's just like, I remember, I actually had a different answer this morning than I did right now.
Okay.
It's like, I was thinking, like, you could be too hopeful if you, like, have too much hope but you don't do anything about it. But like what you mentioned earlier, it's not the hope that's the issue. It's your lack of ability or unwillingness to follow through with it, to actually, like, make it as an ambition.
Yeah, to do what's needed to actually accomplish your goals.
So it's like, hence why I say my answer's different than this morning.
Yeah.
Because I was like, people having too much hope, or people having false hopes, for instance. Like, people who give others false hopes, God, I don't like them.
Those are messed up. I mean, did I just change your mind on air?
I mean, I told you. No, it's
No?
like
Okay.
I
I was
had
like,
that.
damn it. I'm so close. I'm like,
You were so close.
so
It's
close.
like it just so happens I happen to follow the same wavelength after like a couple hours of thinking.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So you heard that, guys. It's eventually, she'll get to the
Eventually.
same place. The same place.
Oh, you did not want to go down that path.
No, not really. Okay.
But yeah, it's like
So-
it's not the hope that's a problem. It's just as long as you're willing to follow through with it, follow through with your ambition, follow your dream, essentially.
Where were you at, like, earlier in the day?
It was essentially like, it was the thought that you could be too hopeful, and then because of so many, like, you hope for this, you hope for that, but if you don't follow through with it, of course, like, it's not going to follow through. But what if somebody's convinced that all they have to do is hope? Like, it's not on them, it's whoever taught them that that was okay. But, like, if they're not corrected, that's going to cause them issues, because it's like they're not, if they don't think they have to work for it because nobody taught them otherwise, they're gonna have a hard time, to say the least. So again, but that's not a problem on the hope. That's whoever taught them that that was okay, which is again not Hope's fault, unless the person happens to be named Hope. But that's another story.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and let's hit that last talking point for the.
Yeah, sure. I'm just looking at host's latest comment.
Yeah, I don't want to read it actually.
Yeah, sure.
It's a bit insensitive.
No. All right. You're gonna have to explain to me later why.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
totally will. 100%.
Anyway, what is the best way we can inspire hope in others?
I think be supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Do good deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Be respectful. And be observant. I think those particular things are all things that I think lead to inspiring hope and instilling a level of hope that is not just surface. You're not just muddying it. You're giving them an actual, this is the root, this is the strength, this is the pillar, and that it can be built upon securely. What about you?
Pretty similar. It's like, it's kind of be the role model you wish to see when it comes to being hopeful. If you want to have hope, you need to also be able to kind of be able to create it yourself in some scenarios. Not all, because it's like not everybody can be hopeful in every situation.
We all have our
24/7.
bad moments.
We all have our bad days. We all have our bad moments. That's not the issue. It's pretty much be as hopeful as you can personally be. Because like we've mentioned several times by now, hope is contagious. Hope is infectious.
Yes, it is.
So if you can be hopeful in your situations and you surround yourself, which can be hopeful in the situations that you can't, you and your group will be able to, without even knowing it, you can inspire other people to do the same. If you're like, if you're doing good at what you do, whether that be work, academia, recreational, whatever, do what you want to do what you can for the good of other people and yourself. Be a good person and be someone that you can be proud
To be.
proud to be like help inspire other people.
Yeah.
If you're proud of who you are, okay, no, I shouldn't say that.
No, you go for it.
No, it's just like I'm thinking of all the exceptions to what I'm about to
No,
say.
don't worry about the exceptions.
But it's just like, if you're proud of who you are, you're proud of your life, and you go around, like, not pompously or anything like that, like, you're humble about it, I think that alone can definitely inspire people, because I've had a couple friends and whatnot come up to me in the past where they tell them that I helped them be hopeful in a situation that I didn't even think about, that didn't even cross my mind, but to them it was everything. So it's just, live your life to the best of your ability, be a good person, be someone you can be proud of. That's all I gotta say. God.
Hey, you know what?
My tone changed on
Yeah,
that.
don't worry about it. I think that's good. Honestly, I think that every single one of our viewers should listen to that and live by that, because I think that is exactly how you should
That
be.
sounds more authoritative than I've been in a couple of months.
Hey, you know what? You're asserting what's important. That's what matters here. You're going, hey, this is important, people. I'm going to be, you know, like a little forward on this particular thing. I'm going to go, hey, hope is the main thing. So, you know what? I say go for it. You know, I just want to wrap this episode up by saying that I think that hope is something that means something to every single person, whether they want to admit it or not. You can be negative. You can be the edge lord in your life. You know, you can super, you know, make everything bad and negative in any way you like, or you can take the high road and you can try and be the better person. And I think Rose's example of what you should do and what kind of makes sense, I think is something that we should all attempt to strive for. And with that, I want to say have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next one. Later.